So the points table at the moment, Hurricanes on top, 42 points. That's because they've got one more bonus point than the Blues, who are on 41. Both teams have won 9 out of 10. The Brumbies have won 8 out of 10. Chiefs have won 7. There's your top 4, and then it's a big gap down to the Reds, the Rebels, the Highlanders, the Endura make up the ace. Justin Marshall joins us again, 81 Test veteran of the All Blacks. Every Monday to talk about this. Justin, welcome back, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. Good to be back. Interesting weekend of Super Rugby, wasn't it?
Well, before we get on to the Crusaders, let's just look at that top 4. Is that top 4, as I just announced it, as I'm describing it, is that the top 4 as you see it? Hurricanes, Blues, Brumbies, Chiefs, maybe not in that order, but is that your 4 semi-finalists already?
Well, I think those 4 are going to be hard to catch. Yeah, you're right. There's probably going to be a little bit of shuffling around amongst them as they play each other. When you think of the Blues, for example, they've got 4 New Zealand teams in their run home. So, yeah, there could be some carnage in there for some of those sides. But in general, yes, I would agree with you. I think that's most likely the top 4. So those 4 teams will get that home advantage, I would imagine, unless something absolutely dramatic happens. But on form, you don't see something dramatic happening. So, yeah, I think you're probably right.
Let's look at the 3 New Zealand teams in that top 4, the Hurricanes, the Blues and the Chiefs, and all of them winning easy. And was it way too easy over the weekend? I thought that Waratahs side was just really poor, for example.
Yeah, so did I. And they are a team that unfortunately fluctuates too much, the Waratahs, because they've got really good potential. They've got good players right across the board. So to put it in perspective, is it they just don't travel well, or they have off games and it makes the opposition look amazing? Hard to put your finger on it, really. But, yeah, I was quite surprised that there wasn't more resistance. It did take a little bit for the Blues to get going, but I thought the Chiefs and the Hurricanes just looked flawless. They just continue with their great momentum they've already created this season.
And able to rest players, able to rotate players as well. Yeah, as you say, I mean, the next few weeks are going to be fascinating, aren't they? Because all of these teams play each other. There's going to be a fair bit of jockeying for position, Justin. Do you? I mean, just look at crystal ball gazing. Do you think that there's going to be player resting? Because, you know, you're playing a team in the round robin, maybe in week 12 or 13 or 14, and then 2 weeks later you're going to be playing them in the finals. You don't want to let everything go, do you?
You probably don't, Marty, but equally you want to continue to try and build your momentum and confidence within the team. And, yeah, sometimes disruption doesn't help those confidence levels and continuing to keep your momentum. You know, what you want to do is not show any vulnerability. You want to go out there and show the rest of the competition that, yeah, you can make maybe 1 or 2 changes if necessary. Otherwise, you're just going to throw your best team out there each week, and it's like, come and get us if you can. And I quite like that theory and that style. It's like, well, the season is basically in the last portion of the competition now. So, you know, the players are hard-tuned. They're finding their feet in terms of knowing their game plan. So just keep throwing them out there and keep making statements. That does disrupt the rest of the competition. When you're winning continuously, then it creates a bit of doubt in their mind whether or not you can actually beat them.
Justin Marshall is with us on the platform here. You got any questions? 5050 on the text. The Brumbies, who were so impressive beating the Hurricanes, weren't as impressive beating the Endura. Is that anything of a worry for them, or do you just think that they are the same side that you have seen all season?
I'd be worried if I was Stephen Larkham, because it's similar to the performance against the Blues, where, you know, against the Hurricanes, like you said, they looked really, really good and played with tempo. They held the ball. They were a completely different side than the one that turned up at Eden Park. And then they go out against Endura on their home environment again. And I remember us chatting about their performance last week, and I said, well, they are a different beast at home. And that's always the case. But, you know, they didn't come out in that same mindset. And then as that beast that we very well know that they can have as their fortress there in Canberra, they were slightly off again. So if I'm Stephen Larkham, I'm going, well, you know, again, off the back of what I've just said about those top teams making statements each week, well, they are fluctuating again too much. And I know that's a bit of a catchword for this interview so far, but it seems to be infectious with quite a few teams. So I think if I was Stephen Larkham, I would be probably giving them a decent talking to today to say, look, we need to be better than what we are when we're up against opposition, in particular, that we should beat. We've got to keep our standard and our performance levels high. And at the moment, we're not doing that. And if we want to win this competition, we've got to be good every week.
Everyone is waiting to hear what you got to say about the Crusaders. I'm just going to pause on that. We're just going to hold that for another couple of minutes because I want to talk about that game, MP and Highlanders in Nuku'alofa. And I watched this game, a couple of observations from it. I thought it looked like an NPC game from Westport. The weather was dreadful, wasn't it? And also there's a large bit of the field as well where you thought, wow, okay, it looks seriously waterlogged. The crowd, though, I mean, how much fun can you have when it's raining? Mate, you just basically dive in the puddles in the mud. I really love watching that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to show, how much in those Pacific Islands they love their rugby, how they love their players, and they see a lot of New Zealand rugby players, because they watch their rugby intently, and to have them on their home field and be a part of it in a different sort of way rather than doing it on their TV screens, you can just see how much that they love the game. And yeah, you're right. Like even in atrocious conditions like that, they can still have fun and they can still enjoy the occasion. And the more times that the New Zealand teams can get over there and give the people over there the rugby that they deserve, the better, I think, for everybody, and particularly for the islands, to keep the enthusiasm levels high and to inspire the youngsters there to see their heroes in the flesh.
Yeah, well said, and also very perceptive to actually acknowledge that, because the fact that they love their rugby, they love their players, because there's so much bunting and so many Highlanders flags and so many Highlanders jerseys. That just really surprised me. But then, of course, you've got a couple of Tongan players, and obviously Folau Fakatava took his team back to his old school and that. Just imagine what kind of a journey that would have been, mate, for him to actually, because it would have been a very humble environment. But that's where he grew up, that's where he came from, that's where he went to school. But obviously, they don't forget, the people who are living in the islands, they don't forget their own, do they? Because at least would have been half and half crowd between those, I suppose, waving the MP flag and waving the Highlanders flag.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, great that Folau Fakatava can go back to where it all started for him. And again, the youngsters can see where you can actually get to, should you put your mind to it. You can be a Folau Fakatava, and I feel that that's really important. Equally, the Moana Pasifika players, the way that they got around the community. And again, it's recognising that these guys are just normal kids like you would have been at school at the time that they're there now. So it's very inspiring for them to have the players come along and to see possibly where they can go in the game. Because sometimes when you're isolated like that, I sort of felt that way too when I was playing my rugby from a small little town with 2,000 people in it. How am I ever going to get noticed? How am I going to get recognised compared to the big cities and the big clubs and teams around the country? But hey, rugby finds talent. It finds it anywhere. So what they've done over there in Tonga is absolutely brilliant. I certainly felt that when I was going to Fiji playing for the Crusaders. We had such good support there, even when we were playing, against the sides that they put out, like in terms of Super Rugby, they had to have someone to support because they didn't have the endurance. So, because we had Fijian players right through our period, they got right in behind supporting the Crusaders.